My name's John Glendon. I'm a Rotary Youth Exchange student from Canada. From Canada, I went to Auckland, New Zealand. And I'm in Fiji right now working on a project bringing tablets to kids. My role in this project is to be the group photographer, the guy who lists the equipment, and I've taken somewhat of a teacher role. I just feel a good connection with the kids because they're so similar to my age, and I like having something that I know and pretty confident in, and then letting them know. The idea of going across the world to live with a family who you've never met, to go to a school where you don't know a single person, to go to a country where you possibly don't know the language is absolutely terrifying. I was so afraid, so scared of absolutely everything. I was scared about the little things, like what if they don't have my favorite brand of toothpaste? But if I could give one word of advice, one sentence of advice to anybody and every kid in the world, is just do it. You won't regret it. In 6 months, I've become a different person. Emotionally, physically, mentally, I see things differently and I act differently, and I'm confident in the way of speaking to people. I can't wait just to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm so happy with where I am in my life. I'm so happy that I've been able to teach and to tell people about my experiences, to hear their stories. Rotary Youth Exchange is where my new life and my new beginnings have started, and I can't thank Rotary enough.
Welcome everyone to the Rotary Club of Tulsa. We're glad you're here. We have a great program ready today, so let's get started. Lauren Monet, if you'll head on up, she'll provide the invocation. And Lauren, you're doing the pledge, since we have special music. And then followed by, I believe it's Catherine DeCamp or somebody, will have introductions. Yes, here she comes. And then we'll have another special musical performance, and we'll give you an introduction of that before we start. So first, Lauren Monet with our invocation and the pledge.
Please join me in a moment of reflection and thanks with these words. A wise Rotarian once said, "You can judge a person by their checkbook stubs." As Rotarians, we are generally blessed with lives of relative luxury and opportunities unknown to many. Help us to review our checkbooks and indeed the registers of our lives with honesty as we consider our priorities and our opportunity to help others. Open our hearts and our accounts to those in need while still providing us with the appropriate fruits of our own labors. Help us to share not only our tangible wealth, but also our intangible riches of knowledge, leadership, and creativity to make our city, our nation, and our world a better place filled with peace and love that you can bring through us. Thank you. Now for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In case you're wondering, jogging in high heels is never easy. It's my privilege today to welcome the guests. I'd like to start out by saying that friends become guests and guests become members. Today, I only have one guest to announce, but I am privileged to do so. Our guest today is Lisa Coulter. She is a friend of Chris McCowan. Would you please stand? Let's everybody give him a big applause. Yay, Chris, for bringing a guest today. Our visiting Rotarians, we do not have some Rotarians, but we have two amazing Rotaract members here, Jamie Fetters and Bruce Estevas. Let's give them a welcome.
Thank you, Catherine, for so ably filling in. We're privileged, as you may have noticed, to enjoy a lot of special music this year, and we've had special music every meeting here during the month of September. And we, as I said earlier, will have the privilege of having special music again today. We're this month promoting the students and the accomplishments of the Barthelmess Conservatory and the Bart Center for Music. And today we're privileged to have pianist Drew Crane here, who was our artist from last week, you may recall. He'll be performing another piece by one of our student composers, or one of their student composers, Alina Riskoff, which will be performed this weekend at the pre-concert of the Tulsa Symphony at 6:30 p.m. in the PAC atrium. Alina, the composer, is also a piano student of Tatiana Lantos, who was Drew's instructor, and she's also a composition student of Dr. Noam Feingold. So while Drew gets seated at the piano, Dr. Feingold will just tell us a couple more words about the Barthelmess Conservatory and the Bart Center for Music, and then Drew will grace us with some more great music.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It's really an honor to continue to be with you throughout the month of September and to join you on these Wednesday lunches during your meetings. So if you've been following up on our latest series this month, we started off with one of our students playing one of her own pieces, which will be featured this weekend. And then Drew came and played some Mozart for us last week, and today we're going to combine those two things. Drew has graciously decided to come back and play another one of our students' pieces. So you get to see sort of our alumni talent, but also our current student talent being represented at the same time. Now, unfortunately, Alina could not be with us today. She and her family had to go to Dallas for something. So let's just say that's what it takes to keep someone away from a performance of their own piece in their hometown. I hope that you might take a moment to really think about how special it is, again, that the city of Tulsa has a community of composers and songwriters, and maybe try to pay a little special attention when you go out, and remember that every piece of music that you ever hear, somebody wrote and was an act of self-expression. And in this case, you're going to hear the act of self-expression of a 15-year-old Russian girl who lives in Tulsa. And I think it's very special. So thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you at our concert at 6:30 on Saturday at the PAC in the atrium before the Tulsa Symphony concert. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, please go ahead. Our concert beforehand is co-sponsored by the Tulsa Symphony, and it is free. So please stop by, see what we're up to at the Barthelmess Conservatory, and look for us around town. We like to play. Thank you.
So, Dr. Feingold, did I hear you right that the composer of that piece was 15 years old? Yes, sir. 15 years old. So it's not too late if I'm 52 to start my first piece, is it? All right, here are some reminders about our upcoming programs like we do every week. Put these on your calendar, put them on your phones, and remember to bring a guest. First, next week, our speaker will be Kim Henry, who is the former Oklahoma First Lady, as you may probably remember. A week after that, a couple of weeks after that, October 14th, Peter Lane, who is the president and CEO of the Walton Arts Center in Fayetteville. I got on their website, and I was interested to notice that on November 19th, they'll have Diana Krall playing a concert there, if any of you know who she is. I don't know how she plays, but there you see her. So I really do know how she plays. She's great. Anyway, on October 21st is Business Visitation Day. You've heard about that. You'll hear more about it later. And we're excited about that, about the opportunity for our Rotarians to showcase their businesses with a group of their fellow Rotarians. On October 28th, Dr. Deborah Gist, our Tulsa Public Schools superintendent, so plan for that. And then another reminder on November 11th, a special Veterans Day program. You might consider bringing some family members or special guests on that day if none of these others excite you. So mark your calendars and plan to be there. Our committee meetings today, the IBO Awards Committee will meet in room 234. The Partners in Education Committee will meet in room 232, and the Yearling Service Project Committee, i.e. you yearlings and others on that committee, need to meet in room 233, and we'll get our yearling year started off, and more about that later. All right, we're ready for a little moment about our sponsors. So Alicia, grab the mic and tell us a little bit about our sponsors today.
We have two sponsors today, Clear Ridge, Matthew Bristow. Okay, Matthew Bristow. Clear Ridge was founded in 2008 to help business owners make better strategic decisions. Clear Ridge's primary focus is advising business owners on the sale of their companies, providing expert advice on structuring and negotiating and closing the acquisition. More importantly, if that's kind of boring, Matthew Bristow will literally climb a mountain to help his clients reach their strategic goals. Is that true? That's him. So thank you, Matthew, very, very much. Jack McGlumphy with Max Electric. I don't know if Jack's here. I tried to make Max Electric really exciting, and I did find out that next year is their 50th anniversary. It's rare for a business in Oklahoma to be celebrating their 50th anniversary, so congratulations and thank you to both our sponsors. Our sponsorship dollars, if you didn't know this, I didn't know this until today, make up 100% of our club's operating budget. So please seek your sponsors, fellow Rotarians, when you need business done. We appreciate the sponsorship so much. Thank you.
Today we have the privilege of introducing a new member to the Rotary Club of Tulsa. So Bob, if you'll make your way up with Jerry. While they're on their way to the stage, I want to thank Joy Longmire for conducting the orientation today. To all of you, my fellow Rotarians, a little story. This week at the board meeting, Chairman Hannibal Johnson asked all of us, as we went around the room, to tell the board what we appreciated most about Rotary. And by far, the most common comment was the friendships that we have in the club. So I believe our friendships are strong because we're united in causes without religious or political motivations, and the cause being, of course, service to others. I challenge and expect all of you to be a good friend with Jerry like you all are to one another. And now, Bob.
Well, I am honored to be Jerry's sponsor, but I must admit something. She was a Rotarian in Hobart and was visiting our club and said she had moved back to Tulsa. So I asked her if she would like to join us, and she said yes. Sometimes it is just that simple. So Jerry has traveled around quite a bit as a director of YMCAs and has been involved with the chamber. She has probably more Rotary experience than many people in this room. Since 1990, she has been a member of the following Rotary clubs: El Dorado, Kansas; some city in Washington State I couldn't pronounce, Plainview, Texas, Bixby, Oklahoma, and most recently, Hobart. Also, her father was Rotarian for 50 years, so it's in her family. The only problem is she is an OU Sooner, so. Currently, she is the operations coordinator for Sistema Tulsa, which is a youth orchestra program here in Tulsa, sponsored by Boston Avenue Methodist Church. Jerry, here's your rotary pin.
Why, thank you.
And your four-way test.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I just want to welcome you to the best Rotary Club you will ever be a member of.
Well, thank you.
Jerry, welcome to the club.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Jerry, thank you for joining. We're excited to have you. And I remember the first time you were a guest and you were introduced and you stood up and had that big smile. So we're all looking forward to seeing a lot more of that. All right, for our Where Are They Now segment, we're proud to tell you a little bit about another one of our former IBA Award winners, Jessica Mendoza. Jessica was our 2012 Female IBA Awards honoree. And here's a little bit more about her. She was an Olympic gold and silver medalist in softball. She was a 4-time All-American at Stanford University. Her record for hits and home runs is still a record at Stanford. In 2008, she was named the Women's Sports Foundation Sportswoman of the Year. She married in 2006 and now has 2 sons. But here's the neatest thing about her. In 2015, she became the first female Major League Baseball broadcaster for ESPN. And I didn't really know about that because I hadn't paid much attention, but she kind of took the place of Curt Schilling, who got a little carried away on his Twitter. Those of you who are baseball fans may know about that. But I stumbled across an article. It's funny how I think the good Lord works sometimes. On September 11th, I stumbled across this article about her in USA Today, and here we are mentioning her in our Where Are They Now? So let me tell you a little bit more about what's in the article. In late August, she made history as that first female analyst on Sunday Night Baseball. Now don't be offended by this when I say this. She's not some pretty lady out on the field trying to get interviews from players. What she's doing is she's in the booth talking about how players throw the ball, how they bat and how they swing the bat and how they steal bases, etc. So that's why this is such a big deal. She's the first female to have that position on the broadcasting team. The news report said that she gives smooth, intelligent, and informative analysis. She's earned rave reviews not only from her fellow announcers, but also from TV critics and from normal fans. And you might ask, why did she get that opportunity? And the article in the USA Today concludes that she didn't get it because just because Curt Schilling made a few tweets that were inappropriate and lost his job, and not because she's a gimmick, it's because she's good. She's every bit as good as the men who have sat in her seat over the years. That's what the article said. What Jessica said about this, which I think is very interesting, she said, it's 2015. I just want to get to the point where as long as you're good at what you do, it shouldn't matter who you are or what your gender is, all of that stuff. So what USA concluded was that somebody had to be the first to do that, and she was a great trailblazer, and we all should be proud of the fact that she is a former IBA winner, and that's why I wanted to mention it today. But a couple other things about the bigger question of females in our business world and in our society. In the world of sports, the article points out a couple of other things that you may have noticed. This year, the first female NBA assistant coach will be out on the floor with her team. We had a female assistant NFL coach during the NFL training camps before the season started, which was a first. And we have the first full-time female NFL official this year. So probably a bit of a coincidence, but I think it is interesting that such strides are being made by women in the world of men's sports. So a lot of it for us to be proud of, and kind of even maybe a more profound event surrounding one of our IBA winners, something I'm very proud of at least. All right, now if Becky Fields will come up for a little announcement as we continue to talk about the Rotary value proposition and emphasize that. You may recall that we've taken time to talk about the Rotary International during a few of our programs this year. And here's another example. Today, Becky will talk to us about a great new Rotary program, but first she's going to tell you a little bit about one of my favorite things, the Rotary International website. Becky, thank you.
Thanks, President Jeff. Okay, so our International Rotary President, President Ravindran, I'm going to butcher that name, I knew I would. But anyway, he has promoted a new program for Rotarians, and it is called Rotary Global Rewards. So you might have seen it recently in your recent Rotarian magazine. And what it is it's another way to give benefits to current Rotarians and then also to say thank you for your service. And hopefully this will enhance the overall membership and retention strategy that we're going for right now. So the main thing is if you're already a member of myrotary.org, then you're already ready to sign up. But if you're not, then we want to make sure that you're a member of myrotary.org. It's a free website run by Rotary International. And so this screen will show you, it's very simple to sign up. You just go to the website, myrotary.org, click on My Rotary up in the right-hand side, and you just follow the directions just like any website for registering for that site. The reason you really want to be on that is there are so many great resources. If you're a committee chair, if you're a committee member, there are great ideas from other clubs around the world, and so it can spark some ideas for you and your committee and also ways to partner with other people around the world and around the United States. So I really suggest getting on that website. So once you are a member of the My Rotary website, then you will be able to participate in the member benefits, which is the Rotary Global Program. And so you will go to the Member Center. So one more slide over. It'll be up in the right-hand corner, the Member Center, and you click on that, and what you'll see is a list of all of the different Rotarians that are participating in that. So right now, I went ahead and looked on it to see in our area who's on it, and so there are a lot of big name brands that you would recognize, like Office Depot or Uber or things like that. So there will be travel certificates, there'll be discount for entertainment and hotels, lodging, things like that. So there are already quite a few businesses represented on there, but we want to make sure that our local businesses are represented as well. So what this does is just make sure that you know wherever you're traveling, you can log in and give business to your fellow Rotarians. So I have this, it's really simple to go through on the member site. Again, you just follow the directions, what's on there, and it leads you through. I also have a little handout on how to create a Rotary Global Rewards offer. I didn't include it in this for time's sake, but if you would like to send me a text, I think my number should be up there. If you'd like to send me a text, I'll send you these PDFs, and so it will walk you through any of these, whether you need to register for the site or learn how to use the rewards program or learn how to get your business listed as a member. Thank you.
So just to be clear, there are millions of Rotarians around the world. All of them should, theoretically at least, be logging into myrotary.org, and so if you have a business and you would like to actually offer something to the millions of Rotarians in the world, this is the way to do it, right? So if it didn't please you to offer you discounts in your personal life, maybe it will be exciting to you to turn the tables and have that available for your business. Okay, a couple more announcements, and then we'll have a series of project announcements. First, on the MSNI raffle, your last reminder that the drawing is Saturday, October the 3rd at the district conference in Fayetteville. You do not have to be present to win the tickets. Raffles and tickets. I came out with rackets. The tickets are $25 each, and isn't it 5 for $100? Isn't that right? Yes, yes. And there is a real chance to win, right? You haven't promised that every single person that bought them is going to win, right? You did promise me that, but I know that wasn't a real promise. I see. That sounds like fine print that some lawyers wrote, Brenda. Anyway, if you are interested, they will have a table set up after the meeting out in the hallway, and you'll have a chance to buy your raffle tickets. Finally, as you've heard me say before, the Rotary Youth Exchange Program is something we want to emphasize more. We want to get to know our students better this year. But this is on a similar but different note. Trish Kirkstra wanted me to remind you that the deadline to apply for an outbound scholarship is November the 1st. There are some pretty long and extensive forms because this person who goes will be going overseas. So Trish urges you to get started now on it if you're interested. This could be something good for a child, grandchild, niece or nephew, etc. So if you're interested, pick up a flyer at the badge boxes as you leave today and then get your young person started on the application. All right, our first project announcement will be from Barney James about business visitation, and then Ed, you're up after that.
All right, I like making side mic announcements, but then again, I like Ed Monette, so. Late February of 1905, Paul, Hiram, and Sylvester all left their office and went over to Gustav's, hence the very first business visitation. We have an honored tradition, and we do this every year. This year, it'll be October 21st. We have 20 people that have volunteered to be Gustavs. And just by fate would have it, they're all intelligent, attractive, kind, generous, and smart. I just got lucky. But 20 people. The list is on your table, and you can sign up in 4 ways. 4 ways. Get it? You can sign up today on the slips. You can sign up next week on the slips. You can go online and sign up. Or, lastly, I'll hunt you down. You can take your choice. I want to say thank you to the people that stepped up at the end last week and helped us get to our 20. I want to thank Rochelle for helping do the slides and all the stuff that looks professional. Thank you very much.
Over the course of the next few weeks, we are going on a campaign of educating everyone about the differences between the 2 major opportunities for giving that we have here at Rotary. Last week we heard about the Rotary International Foundation. Today we're going to hear a little bit about the Rotary Club of Tulsa Foundation. Our foundation, it's the local money, is separate and distinct from Rotary International. The Rotary International is the Paul Harris Fellow stuff, the Polio Plus stuff. Our foundation was started in 1972 and now has over $3 million in it. It supports all our local stuff as well as the water well projects that we do, but it's projects of our club. It's Camp Enterprise, it's Above and Beyond, it's the grants that we give to local charities throughout the town. Major source of funding, the IBA Awards, obviously, the Sergeant at Arms fines, and at-will gifts. You will be receiving today, this afternoon, an email advising you of what your level of giving is to date as of September 1st. It will also be advising you as to how much more you need to give in order to achieve the next level of recognition. If you wish to get recognized at our recognition meeting in November, you will need to get your monies in by October 7th. I want to remind you that IBA ticket and table sale purchases count toward your community foundation or foundation donations. So it would be a great opportunity to go ahead and sign up for IBA and get the recognition in November. Thank you very much.
All right, Joy or Lauren, which one of you is coming up? Both of you are coming up next. So a little bit about our yearling project, and I won't try to steal your thunder, but we're really excited about this. It's new. Everyone's invited, but the yearlings are certainly invited the strongest, and have at it, Joy.
Okay, this is a new project that President Jeff, I'm not going to say came up with, he might have stolen it from some other large clubs, but Lauren and I are co-chairs of the new yearling service project. As you know, when you have co-chairs, you must have brains and beauty. That's where Lauren comes in. I'm just her mouthpiece. But a quick overview of what we plan to do. We will have 2 yearling classes throughout the Rotary year, and each class will be given $2,500 from our local foundation. They will use that as seed money, and they may come up with some project of their own, as long as it follows along with Rotary, our local and our international guidelines. They may decide to use that seed money perhaps as fundraising, to come up with a fundraising project to benefit some of our projects that are ongoing. For example, they may decide to do some kind of activity or something like the Rotaract has done with their chocolate and wine thing to raise money for some of our projects that are already ongoing. So those of you who are committee chair people, this is your opportunity to get some help, either new members or more money for your project. And just a reminder to all of you yearlings in attendance today and committee chairs or representative of committee chairs, we are meeting immediately after the meeting today up in room 233. So we hope all the yearlings will be there to hear more about this. And we hope and encourage any of you committee chairpersons to come and give us a pitch for donations. Anything else, Lauren?
She covered it.
Thank you very much.
All right, Sarge, it's the speedy version.
Rush, are you kidding?
Yeah. No.
How are you today?
No, I'm not.
Gosh. Okay. Real quick, we didn't have a who was that, and it kind of reminded me of a fun story, so everybody's going to get just a real brief, quick lesson. Is anybody familiar with the Marshall Islands? Anybody ever heard of the Marshall Islands? This is a little map of the Marshall Islands in the North Pacific. My daughter was born at St. Francis Hospital in Enid. At night, they come in, they take all the babies. This sounds awful, but it's a good thing. They take pictures of them. So you pick out a little outfit for your tiny human to be taken a picture of, and then the day that you check out, you get pictures of your child. Marshallese people there's a very dense population of them in Enid because of a missionary program that they had at Phillips University like 30 or 40 years ago. So anyway, they come, they take Ava. The day we go to check out, they bring me a picture. This is Ava. She's cute. They bring me a picture of a child very similar to this one, who in fact is not my child at all, which led me to wonder, who is this random child that they gave us pictures of in the hospital? So it reminded me of your...
Who was that?
Who was that? Wasn't my kid, so be cautious of that. Okay, we have a very good story from Tony Oliva. Jeff, you brought this up last week. I didn't have my glasses on, so the arrow's off a little. Tony Oliva paid a fine of $50 to acknowledge he and his wife's trek to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. So this is a picture of the 9 trekkers, all who made it to the summit together. So Tony, thank you so much. He wanted to dedicate that to water wells, rightfully so. Okay, Tim and Barbara Null have graciously given us 2 tickets to every OSU and OU game. These are the tickets that we have left. They will be for sale in the lobby, so you guys can step out there. It's a silent auction. Rochelle is kind of coordinating all that, so thank you so much, Rochelle. And last but not least, just at the very last minute, Jeff brought me some tickets he didn't bring them to me, he brought them for you guys, to Florida-Georgia Line this Friday. So see me after the meeting, and you guys can make a donation for tickets to the concert this week.
There's 8 of those, right?
There's 6 of them,
6,
Jeff.
I'm sorry, 6.
No, there's
6
8.
of those
there's
tickets.
8 tickets.
8, 6, anyway.
Thank you very much.
Yes. All right, our Rotarian of the day today is Dr. Norm Simon, who is a retired physician. He joined the club in June of 2008. He currently serves on the program committee and also on the diversity and inclusion committee, and we appreciate very much his service. Please welcome our Rotarian of the day, Norm Simon.
Thank you, President Jeff. Reggie Ivey serves as the Chief Operating Officer of the Tulsa City County Health Department. He's been with the department for 20 years. He was born in Arkansas but grew up here in Oklahoma. He received his bachelor's degree at Northeastern State University and subsequently his Master's of Human Relations at the University of Oklahoma. He has also completed 40 hours of postgraduate work in organization leadership. Reggie is an Oklahoma Public Health Leadership Institute Fellow, as well as a Leadership Tulsa Fellow. He has received numerous awards for his work and serves on the boards of the Tulsa Salvation Army and the John Hope Franklin Center for Reconciliation. Reggie has been married to his wife Ida for 21 years and has 2 children, Jeremiah and Caden. He has a strong he has a strong interest in the issue of serious health disparities in different regions of Tulsa County and has been working vigorously to help our community address this. Today, he will tell us more about this problem, what has been done, and what still needs to be accomplished to improve the health of all of our residents. Please help me welcome Reggie Ivey to our club.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm honored to stand before you this afternoon to talk to you about health disparities. I have to tell you, when I was invited several months ago, Hannibal Johnson called and asked me if I would give a presentation. And I thank him for giving me plenty of notice. That's not always a luxury in the business that I'm in. But I was a little nervous presenting to such a large group. I presented on health disparities to a number of groups, but generally they're not this large. So I'm excited to be here with you. I want to thank Dr. Simon. He contacted me about 2 weeks ago, and he wanted to make sure that I understood all of the logistical information, or had all of that information that I would need in order to be here on time. And I give him an A for efficiency. And then on Monday, he called to confirm that I would be here. And so I really appreciate that, and then he greeted me warmly when I got here. So we are going to talk about health disparities this afternoon, and I titled this presentation, From Health Disparities to Health Equity. And we're going to look at it in 4 different segments. I'm going to define some terms for you. I'm going to talk about some historical data that you may be familiar with, and I'm also going to talk about some success as relates to the historical data that I'm going to mention. And finally, I'm going to talk about next steps. But first, I wanted to make sure that, am I pointing it the right direction? Okay. Okay. I wanted to share with you this particular slide because Dr. David Satcher is one of my public health heroes. And he made this statement a few years ago, and I happened to be in the audience, and I heard it, and I wrote it down, because typically when I'm speaking to leadership groups, I thought this particular quote really resonates. And it says, "The issue of health inequities is serious. It is a matter of life and death. It is time for leaders who care enough, know enough, will do enough, and are persistent enough to eliminate health inequities in our community." And I believe that in Tulsa, we have leaders that when there is a problem that is presented or a concern, we have leaders that are willing to do what is necessary to resolve the problem. And that's exactly what we're doing here in Tulsa. All right. Sorry about that, technical difficulties. I wanted to first define what health disparities are. And health disparities are those differences in the incidence, prevalence, mortality, burden of disease, or adverse health conditions or illnesses that impact specific groups in the United States. We also know that when we look at quantitative research, if we could close the black-white health disparities gap in this country, we could save about 83,000 lives a year. That's significant. We can make a huge difference by just focusing on closing that gap. When we look at the last 25 years, there have been significant health improvements as a nation. But unfortunately, when we look at almost every minority group in this country, there are still striking health inequities. And what our goal is to reach health equality. And what we want to, health equity. It's an opportunity for a healthy life for everyone. That's our ultimate goal. In 2007, some of you may recall, there was a statistic that came from the Lewin Group report. And in that statistic, it indicated that residents who were living in North Tulsa in certain zip codes were dying 14 years earlier than residents living in Midtown or South Tulsa. It was on the front page of the newspaper. It was startling because we wondered what was happening. Why are residents who are living in this area dying 14 years earlier prematurely? What is going on? And so it caused a lot of health providers, the business community, the philanthropic community, to come together to figure out what we could do to close that gap. Also in that report, we learned that for every one physician in East, West, and North Tulsa, there are 26 physicians in South Tulsa. So the concentration of health services are in South Tulsa. So those who live in Northeast and West Tulsa were having to leave their community to access health services because the services were not in the community where they lived. Also during that time, the Tulsa Health Department released a community health profile. And this profile really aligned with what we learned about health disparities from the Lewin report. And I have just a few slides that I want to share with you. During this time frame, when we look at heart disease, and we look at deaths as relates to heart disease, those darker shaded areas are where we had higher rates of heart disease. And if you look at the North Tulsa area, there's a concentration of heart disease deaths in that area. Although there are problems in other areas of Tulsa County, for example, in zip code on this chart, 74132, which is in the southwest quadrant of our county, they had a high rate of heart disease, and also in zip code at the very bottom, 74047, which is Mounds, Oklahoma, had a high rate of heart disease. But again, when you look at the northern tier of the county, a lot of heart disease deaths were happening in that area, and they were somewhat grouped together. When you look at diabetes deaths, you see the same thing. The northern tier of the county had higher rates of diabetes deaths as opposed to other parts of the county. Although when you look at to my far left, that's 74108, which is actually closer to Catoosa, also had high rates of diabetes as well. But in North Tulsa, there's a cluster of high rates of diabetes deaths. When we look at stroke, again, another cluster in North Tulsa of high rates of death as relates to stroke. And so when we look at these chronic diseases in our community, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, in North Tulsa, during the time of the Lewin Group report, we saw high rates of death as relates to chronic disease. We also learned from the community health profile that those who live in zip code 74126 were experiencing high rates of death. And unfortunately, they had the poorest health outcomes in the entire county. So a major problem in our community as relates to North Tulsa. Last week, some of you may have read an article in the Tulsa World. And the report in the Tulsa World focused on narrowing the gap. And it spoke about zip code 74126 specifically, which I just mentioned had the worst health outcomes in 2007. But when compared to zip code 74137, we saw a dramatic change over these last 8 years. The gap is narrowing. So the narrowing gap is now from 13.8 to 10.7, almost a 3-year difference in 8 years. And so that may not sound like a lot, but for those of us in public health or the medical field, when you want to see the needle change, it takes time. And 8 years is not too long for the needle to begin to change. And so we're really excited about the statistic. We're going certainly in the right direction. A large part of why that happened is because, again, the philanthropic community, healthcare providers, the business community came together, and what they wanted to do is to make sure that there were services in North Tulsa. And access to care was a major driver for making sure that individuals who live in the zip codes in North Tulsa had adequate care. One of the projects that I was intimately involved in was the North Regional Health and Wellness Center. It's a project of the Tulsa Health Department. When our board heard the startling statistics from the Lewin Group report, and we also reviewed our own data from the community health profile, the board began to ask, what should we do, or what can we do? The board engaged in an 18-month opportunity to meet with various leaders and residents in North Tulsa to ask them what are some things that what are some things that the health department could do for you. And what they told us is that we want you to build a health center in North Tulsa. Now, that was not on our radar, but that's what they said they wanted. They said, we want the center to include prevention and wellness activities. We don't want just the typical health department where you're providing clinical services, but we want you to focus on prevention and wellness. And so we, of course, capture that information. They said, we also want you to provide primary care services. And the health department does not provide primary care services. So when we took that information back to our board, they said, well, we want you to find a partner that we could work with or collaborate with to bring services to this community in a building that the health department owns. They said, we want you to build a demonstration kitchen in this facility to teach people in this area how to cook healthy. And again, not something that the health department had ever done before, but we listed that item as well. They wanted meeting space so that they could come together in the community to talk about various health issues. They wanted outdoor space activities, a walking trail, a community garden. They wanted a basketball court. They also described the look and the feel of the facility and the location. We took all of that information to our board, and our board said, we will do it. And we built a 30,000 square foot building that cost $8.4 million in 3 years. It opened in 2012. We've been there for 3 years now. And everything that the community said that they wanted, that facility offers. So we're really excited about that, to bring those services to North Tulsa. Also, most of you are probably familiar with the Wayman Tisdale Specialty Health Clinic, which was a project of the University of Oklahoma, Tulsa. They built a 44,000 square foot facility at 36th Street and North Hartford, and it opened also in 2012, and they provide a buffet of specialty clinic services to the residents who live in that area, but also surrounding communities as well. And we work very well together. So we refer clients to the specialty clinic, and the specialty clinic refers clients to us. But also, there are additional clinics that also built in North Tulsa. Catholic Charities did not build a facility in North Tulsa as a result of the Lewin Report, but they did build a facility around the same time that the Lewin Report was released. And so they are located at Apache and Harvard. There's a Westview Pediatric Clinic. There's the Greenwood Healthcare Specialty Women's Clinic. There's a crossover clinic. There is also the Hillcrest Pregnancy Care Center, all located in North Tulsa. All of this happened after the Lewin Group report was released in 2007. So certainly, access to care was something that we took seriously, and we did something about it as a community. Now, what are the next steps? We know that access to care is only one slice of the pie. There are a number of other factors that contribute to a person's health. And these are some of the things that we have to look at: education, employment, economic development, food security, and the list goes on and on. And so if we don't do something about these other things within North Tulsa, we're not going to see the needle move even further. So access to care is important, but again, it's one slice of the pie. One of the things that we have to look at as far as education is concerned is ensuring that every student graduates from high school. If they don't, it's going to be very, very difficult for these young people to survive. If you don't have a high school diploma, it's going to be hard for you to find a job. And if you don't have a job, then you're more likely going to be uninsured. And the health services that will be available to you are limited. So we have to do something regarding education. Employment is also extremely important. A number of individuals are unemployed or underemployed. And so they may not have insurance, or they may have insurance, but they're having difficulty paying for their co-pays or for their prescription fees because their income is not a living wage. They're making very little money, and so the money typically is focused on those things that are basic needs. When we look at economic development, particularly in North Tulsa, there hasn't been any economic development. So there aren't many jobs, new jobs coming to that community. Although recently we heard from the city councilor for that district that he hopes in the next Vision 2025 package to build an office complex that may attract 1,000 jobs to the community. That sounds great, and it is desperately, desperately needed. So that's one of the things that we have to look at. But when I think about the social determinants of health, I think about the 1960s and 70s when I was growing up in North Tulsa, and everything that the community needed was in the community. There were 5 grocery stores. Dillard's department store was located at 36th Street North. There was a Frug's department store. There was a Brown Duncan. There was a drive-in movie theater that was located at Apache and Harvard. There was a skating rink at 36th Street North. There were plenty of doctors and optometrists. Everything that you needed was in the community where you lived. So you did not have to spend your money outside of the community. You could spend your money and receive services where you lived. And since then, what has happened is that the suburban areas have grown. And the things that are listed here that are important to health for a community, the suburban areas got it. Because in Owasso, in Broken Arrow, in Jinx, those areas have all of the resources in order for those residents that live there to thrive and to be healthy. And we don't see poor health outcomes in those areas like we do in areas like North Tulsa, because there's an absence of economic development, an absence of grocery stores. Housing is a problem, transportation is a problem, those sorts of things. And so it's something that we really have to look at and we have to work on to bring these resources to the communities that are most vulnerable. This is a chart that I got from the city of Tulsa, and it talks about sales tax revenue, and particularly as it relates to North Tulsa. It's from the Buxton Consulting Group. And to my far left, the store type are the different store types that individuals from North Tulsa use to purchase goods and services and things like that. To my far right, the estimated sales is the number of money that residents who live in North Tulsa actually spend within their community. That middle column that at the top is identified as potential, that column is signifying the amount of money that residents that live in North Tulsa spend outside of the community, about $91 million. So investors, if they were to hear this information, there's an opportunity for investors to come into North Tulsa, build various store types so that the residents who live in that community can actually purchase goods and services in their own community. So this is something that is very valuable, and I don't know how many people actually know this, but it was very helpful for me to see the amount of money that individuals who live in this area are actually spending in their community versus the amount of money that's spent outside of their community. There's a significant housing problem. And when I say housing problem, not only in North Tulsa, we can see this in East and West Tulsa and some parts of South Tulsa even. But in 2009, a group of my colleagues, about 8 of us, decided that we wanted to identify dilapidated housing structures in North Tulsa, and we wanted to do something about it. So we identified a 5-mile radius, and we divided the area up. And we took Instamatic cameras, and in 2 days, we took 200 pictures of dilapidated or burned housing structures in North Tulsa. And you would think that something would be done about this. But we realized that there are not effective policies in place to resolve this issue, and there's not enough money to resolve this issue. And this is one of the things that we need in our city. And so these are some of the houses that we saw. And as you're looking at these houses, understand this did not just happen yesterday. This has been like this for a long time. And so there are individuals that are living next door to houses that look like this in the community. And unfortunately, it's a safety hazard because we found that there were children that were playing in homes that look like this, that homeless were living in homes that look like this. And so again, it's very dangerous for a community. And apparently, certainly you can see that this is not something that just happened yesterday. Someone abandoned this house and it looks like this a week later. This has looked like this for years. And unfortunately, we took these pictures in 2009. In 2015, it's worse. So many of these houses still stand. And you may ask, well, do the residents call code enforcement? Absolutely. Do they call the mayor's hotline? Absolutely. But again, policies, we don't have effective policies in place, and we don't have enough money to deal with this issue in our community. And so there is house after house that unfortunately in North Tulsa that look like those that I just showed you. I also wanted to show you this particular slide. Most of you all know in the spring that there is going to be a special election to determine, voters will have an opportunity to vote to determine if there will be an extended sales tax as relates to Vision 2025. There have been a number of outstanding proposals as relates to that vote. This is one that I had an opportunity to hear someone from Tulsa Transit speak about, because public transportation is a major issue in Tulsa County. And these are some things that they propose to do. For example, and I highlighted 3 that I wanted to just mention, and they are sorely needed. Fixed routes for our bus system. Sometimes a person has to wait an hour or an hour and a half for a bus to come, and if they have to rely on public transportation, that's very difficult, especially if you have a child or 2 going along with you. So what they're hoping is that for their fixed routes that they can narrow that time down to 30 minutes. So every 30 minutes there's going to be a bus that will come around on those fixed routes. They also want to significantly improve their evening and their Saturday hours, which would be extremely important, because there are a number of people that work the 3rd shift on a Saturday or 3rd shift on an evening. They get off at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, and they have no way to get home because there's no public transportation system. Or they have to pay someone $10 or more to come pick them up from work and take them home, and they're already struggling just to make it, because oftentimes they're working in hotels, they're working in the restaurant industry, those types of venues, and they don't have a lot of money. And for the first time, Tulsa Transit is proposing that they will offer Sunday service, public transportation on Sundays. That's awesome. They've never done it before. And so we know this can be done, because just 4 hours away, if you go to Dallas, they have the DART, an excellent public transportation system. If you go to Kansas City, they have an excellent public transportation system that works. And so this is something that we certainly can do, but we need the resources in order to do it. So we certainly want to endorse this kind of project. The last slide that I wanted to share with you is something that I debated whether or not I would discuss, but I feel it's important for me to do so, and I know my time is almost up. But we have a medical model approach as to the way that we address health disparities in this country. And the arrows that are going down, it's a downward approach, and we assume that if someone has enough health information or health education, then they will change their behavior. And so most people who smoke know that it's not a good idea to smoke. So just because you know that doesn't mean that that's going to change your behavior. Also, most of us know that it's not a good idea to eat fried chicken every day, but there are people that do. And so just because you know the right thing to do doesn't mean that it's going to impact your behavior. Also, genetics, we know it's important to look at family history. So if a person has, their family history shows breast cancer or diabetes, it's important for providers to know that information and in advance, because it might call for that particular patient to have some advanced screenings earlier than what is typically recommended. And then healthcare, access to healthcare is extremely important. But we know that access to care is not enough to impact life expectancy alone. So, but that's typically the medical model, that's how we operate. But if we are to have an upward stream approach, and this is somewhat new, and oftentimes it's very uncomfortable to talk about, and we need to talk about it, and that's to my far left. It's those social factors that impact our institutions, our neighborhoods, our schools, our businesses, and it's those isms that we are not comfortable talking about, such as classism, racism, sexism, immigrant bias, and how those things impact the institutions that we all live within. But again, we don't have frank conversations about those issues, and unfortunately the problem gets pervasively worse. And so I want to leave you with this thought. When you go back, think about when was the last time that you had a conversation with your colleagues about those types of issues, racism, classism, sexism, and how they impact the neighborhood you live in, the business that you work in, the institution that you are part of, the clubs that you are a part of, those types of things. because we need to have earnest conversation about those types of isms, because they ultimately impact risk factors such as smoking, nutrition, physical activity, and violence. They impact chronic disease. They impact life expectancy, infant mortality. They just do. But again, we're not comfortable talking about things of that nature, but we need to. The last slide that I have for you is a quote by Dr. Julie Gerberding. She was the former CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Director, and it reads, "The most powerful way to achieve improvements in health is to target programs to those people who experience the greatest health disparities in their own community." She said this in 2000. And in 2007, when the Lurie Group report was released, this community got together and said, we need to target those communities that community that is most vulnerable, and we need to do something about it. And that's exactly what we did. But again, we moved the needle 3 years, but how awesome it would be if we could move the needle 10 years so that individuals who are now living 70 years could live 80 years in the same community where they live. And so that's what our goal is. And again, we're trying to move from health disparity to health equity. I believe we can do it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Reggie. A book recognizing our program will be given to our partner in education school, Celia Clinton Elementary, in lieu of a speaker's gift, and I hope that you'll inscribe a little note to the kids there in the inside of the book. I thank you very much for doing that. Let's thank everyone who volunteered for our program today. It's starting to be the election season, and the words that came to my mind when thinking about all the volunteers that participate in our programs, those words that came to my mind were, it takes a village. So thank those people as you leave the door. Thank you all for attending. I want to remind you to get on to myrotary.org. That's myrotary.org. It will be worth your time. Sign up. It doesn't cost you anything. Thank you. Go out and tell everyone about Rotary. Have a good week. We're adjourned.